Groovy English Podcast.
Hey there! Welcome back to Groovy English. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Aiden. We share real stories, useful tips, and everyday English to help you grow with confidence.
Wherever you are in your English learning journey, we're glad you're here.
If you're enjoying the podcast, feel free to like, subscribe, or share it with a friend. Let's get started.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Groovy English Podcast. I'm Sarah, and today we're diving into one of my favorite topics, how movies can teach us real English. If you've ever watched a movie in English and noticed yourself picking up new words, expressions, or even the rhythm of conversation without consciously studying, then you already know the magic of movies as a learning tool. Movies are more than entertainment, they're a bridge into everyday language, culture, and natural communication. One of the reasons movies are so effective for learning English is that they expose us to real, spoken language in context. Textbooks often focus on grammar rules or formal vocabulary, but movies capture the way people actually speak. Slang, idioms, incomplete sentences, interruptions, and natural pauses are all part of dialogue. By listening carefully, we absorb patterns of speech that would be difficult to learn from formal lessons alone. Movies also give us examples of pronunciation and intonation. Every language has its own rhythm, stress, and musicality, and English is no exception. Hearing actors emphasize certain words, change pitch for emotion, or pause for effect teaches us subtleties that go beyond textbook pronunciation. Over time, this exposure improves listening comprehension, speaking confidence, and the ability to understand English in real-world situations. Another benefit is vocabulary in context. When a character says a word or phrase, it comes with a situation, emotion, and visual cues. For example, hearing "I can't believe this" while a character throws their hands in frustration is much more memorable than reading the sentence in isolation. Context makes it easier to remember new words and understand how they're used naturally. Movies also teach cultural nuances. Language doesn't exist in a vacuum, it's shaped by culture, humor, social norms, and shared experiences. Watching movies allows us to see how people interact, what is considered polite or funny, and how context influences meaning. For English learners, this cultural insight is invaluable because it shapes how we communicate naturally. One of my favorite ways to learn from movies is by repeating dialogue out loud. I often pause and mimic actors' speech, matching their tone, speed, and emotion. This practice helps with pronunciation, fluency, and rhythm. It also builds confidence because you're not just memorizing words, you're practicing real communication, just like native speakers do. Subtitles can be a powerful tool, but using them strategically is key. Watching with subtitles in your own language first can help you understand the story. Then, watching with English subtitles allows you to connect spoken and written forms of the language. Finally, trying this section without subtitles challenges your listening skills. This layered approach gradually strengthens comprehension and retention. Movies also expose us to different accents and regional variations. English is spoken differently across countries, states, and even cities. Watching movies from various regions, American, British, Australian, or Indian English, for example, teaches us to recognize and understand diverse accents. This diversity is essential because real-life English is full of variation, and movies provide a safe, enjoyable way to practice. Humor is another area where movies excel as a learning tool. Jokes, puns, and wordplay often rely on cultural knowledge or double meanings, which are rarely taught in traditional lessons. By watching comedies or light-hearted movies, learners pick up not just language but the timing, tone, and social cues that make humor work in English. Movies also provide examples of informal speech and casual conversation. Everyday English often includes contractions, fillers like and you know, and expressions that don't appear in textbooks. Listening to characters speak naturally gives learners a model for how to sound more authentic, rather than overly formal, when communicating in real life. Another powerful technique is shadowing, which involves speaking along with the actors in real time. This practice improves fluency, pronunciation, and listening skills simultaneously. It's challenging at first, but over time, it trains your brain to process English quickly, helping you respond more naturally in conversation. Movies can also inspire vocabulary expansion through contextually rich dialogue. For example, a courtroom drama may introduce legal terms, while a romantic comedy may feature conversational phrases about relationships. By choosing movies related to your interests, you learn English that is relevant and engaging, rather than abstract or boring. Learning English through movies also strengthens memory. Stories are inherently easier to remember than lists of words. When we associate language with characters, plots, and emotions, it sticks in our minds much more effectively. For instance, a dramatic line in a suspenseful moment can become unforgettable, making vocabulary and expressions easier to recall later. Movies provide repeated exposure naturally. Unlike textbooks, where we read a sentence once and move on, movies often repeat words and phrases in different contexts. This repetition reinforces learning and helps internalize grammar, vocabulary, and conversational structures without conscious effort. Watching movies in English also improves comprehension of slang and idiomatic expressions. Phrases like hit the road, pulling your leg, or break a leg may not make literal sense, but movies show how they're used in real conversations. Understanding idioms is essential for truly mastering conversational English, and movies are a rich source of these expressions. Another advantage is learning through emotion. Language connected to feelings is easier to remember. When a character expresses joy, anger, fear, or love, the words become associated with the emotion. This emotional connection strengthens memory and helps learners understand the subtleties of tone and context in real English. Movies also teach turn-taking in conversation. Observing how characters interrupt, pause, or respond teaches natural dialogue flow. For English learners, understanding conversational pacing is crucial for speaking smoothly and avoiding awkward pauses or overlaps. Watching movies with friends or in discussion groups can enhance learning further. After viewing, discussing favorite scenes, phrases, or misunderstandings reinforces comprehension and encourages speaking practice. Social interaction around movies turns passive watching into active learning. Movies are like a window into real life. Unlike textbooks, they capture conversations as they naturally occur, with interruptions, incomplete sentences, and casual phrasing. Observing how characters interact provides learners with a model of authentic communication, showing not just words but the timing, tone, and social cues that make English come alive. The beauty of learning English through movies is that context makes comprehension easier. When a character says a new word or phrase, the situation, expressions, and visual cues help you infer meaning. This contextual learning is far more memorable than memorizing definitions, because your brain links language to experience. Even small details in dialogue can teach important aspects of English. Pauses, hesitations, laughter, or sighs carry meaning and emotion. By paying attention to these subtleties, learners can understand nuance and emotion in real conversations, which textbooks often overlook. Movies provide exposure to diverse vocabulary. A romantic comedy might teach phrases related to dating and relationships, while a science fiction film introduces technical or imaginative words. Selecting movies and genres you enjoy ensures that learning is relevant, engaging, and personalized. Another benefit is hearing different accents. English is spoken differently across countries and regions. Watching movies from the US, UK, Australia, or India familiarizes learners with pronunciation, rhythm, and regional expressions, making it easier to understand a variety of speakers in real life. Watching movies repeatedly reinforces learning. When you rewatch favorite scenes or lines, you notice new words, phrases, or sentence structures you missed before. This repetition strengthens memory and improves listening skills naturally over time. One of the most effective strategies is shadowing. By speaking along with the actors in real time, learners mimic pronunciation, intonation, and rhythm. This practice improves fluency, listening comprehension, and confidence in speaking, because it trains the brain to process English as it is spoken in real situations. Subtitles are a valuable tool, but they must be used strategically. Watching with your own language first gives understanding of the plot. Then, English subtitles help link spoken and written forms. Finally, trying a segment without subtitles challenges listening skills and develops your ability to understand English independently. Movies also teach idioms and expressions that textbooks rarely cover. Phrases like hit the sack, pulling your leg, or back to the drawing board are embedded in dialogue. Seeing how they're used in context makes it easier to understand their meaning and incorporate them into your own speech naturally. Humor in movies offers insight into both language and culture. Understanding jokes, puns, or sarcasm teaches learners about wordplay, cultural references, and conversational tone. Comedy movies, in particular, are rich in expressions that reflect how people really talk and think. Movies also help learners understand conversational turn-taking. Observing how characters interrupt, pause, or respond teaches the rhythm of natural dialogue. Learning when to speak, how to overlap, and how to react keeps conversations smooth and authentic. Emotional context is crucial. When characters express joy, frustration, or surprise, words take on extra meaning. Linking language to emotion strengthens memory and helps learners convey their own feelings effectively in English. Movies provide exposure to informal speech. Everyday English includes contractions, fillers like and you know, and casual phrasing. Textbooks often emphasize formal structures, but movies teach learners how to speak naturally and comfortably in real-life situations. Watching movies with friends or in discussion groups enhances learning. Discussing favorite scenes, repeating lines together, or debating character choices encourages speaking practice, vocabulary recall, and cultural understanding, making learning social and interactive. Character repetition also reinforces language. When the same expressions, slang, or idioms appear multiple times across a movie, learners get repeated exposure in varied contexts. This repetition helps internalize language patterns without conscious memorization. Movies allow learners to practice different registers of English. A drama might include formal conversations, a comedy casual exchanges, and an action film urgent or rapid speech. Exposure to these variations equips learners to adapt language according to context. Watching older movies introduces historical and cultural language differences. Period dramas or classics teach vocabulary, grammar, and expressions used in past eras, expanding both comprehension and cultural knowledge. This helps learners recognize and understand English across time and context. Music and soundtracks in movies reinforce language naturally. Lyrics, background dialogue, and musical cues create rhythm and emphasize phrases, making them easier to remember and reproduce in real-life conversation. Movies provide examples of body language and nonverbal cues. A simple gesture, facial expression, or posture adds meaning to words, teaching learners how tone and action combine to convey intent, which is crucial for communication. Actors' emphasis on certain words teaches stress and intonation. Listening closely helps learners understand which words carry emotional weight and how emphasis changes meaning, improving both comprehension and pronunciation. Movies can simulate immersive environments for learning. Watching a movie set in a cafe, office, or classroom allows learners to pick up relevant vocabulary, social norms, and conversational etiquette in that context. Movies allow learners to observe politeness and social hierarchy. Dialogue often reflects formal versus informal speech, respectful expressions, and cultural expectations. Learning these nuances helps navigate real-life English more smoothly. Fantasy or sci-fi movies expand imaginative vocabulary. Words and phrases not common in everyday life become memorable because of unique visuals and context, reinforcing learning through storytelling. Watching movies in small segments encourages deep learning. Pausing after key dialogues to repeat, summarize, or note vocabulary helps reinforce understanding and promotes active engagement rather than passive watching. Listening to different genres trains auditory flexibility. Comedies, dramas, thrillers, and action movies feature distinct pacing, tone, and dialogue complexity, preparing learners to understand diverse English speech patterns. Movies also demonstrate conversational politeness and humor. Sarcasm, teasing, and playful banter are common in dialogue, teaching learners how tone, timing, and word choice affect social meaning. Observing character development reinforces comprehension. Understanding personality traits, motivations, and emotions helps learners interpret dialogue meaningfully, which deepens both language and critical thinking skills. Movies teach idiomatic and metaphorical language. Expressions like break the ice or kick the bucket are easier to remember when paired with visuals, emotions, and situational context. Watching movies in a series format, like a franchise or episodic series, enhances continuity learning. Repeated exposure to characters, phrases, and settings reinforces retention and provides opportunities for progressive comprehension. Actors' dialogue pacing teaches natural flow. Pauses, interruptions, and overlapping speech demonstrate realistic conversational rhythm that learners can emulate to sound more authentic. Movies highlight emotion-driven vocabulary. Words expressing fear, joy, or frustration are embedded in scenes, providing learners with real-life examples of how emotion shapes language. Movies teach regional slang and cultural references. Characters use expressions tied to location or community, allowing learners to understand context-specific language, which textbooks often omit. Movies provide examples of problem-solving language. Characters negotiate, persuade, or explain plans, showing practical ways English is used in real situations to solve problems or express ideas. Rewatching scenes allows learners to notice subtleties previously missed. Tone, inflection, or word choice may become clearer on repeated viewing, reinforcing learning and comprehension. Dialogue repetition helps memorize phrases. Catchphrases, repeated idioms, or emotionally charged sentences stick in memory because of their significance in plot or character interactions. Movies allow learners to hear variations in speed. Some scenes are fast-paced, others slow, training ears to understand different rhythms and preparing learners for varied real-life conversations. Movies teach indirect communication. Characters often imply meaning rather than state it directly, teaching learners to infer context, read between lines, and understand subtlety in language. Watching movies encourages active listening. Following plot, dialogue, and character cues trains learners to focus, anticipate meaning, and respond appropriately, which is essential for real conversations. Movies provide real-life examples of question forms, requests, and polite refusals. Listening to how these are expressed naturally helps learners use language effectively in social situations. One of the underrated benefits of movies is their ability to teach tone and emotion. When characters are angry, sad, or excited, the way they speak communicates meaning beyond the words themselves. Observing these subtleties teaches learners how to match emotion with language, making speech more expressive and authentic. Movies also demonstrate conversational repair techniques. When characters misunderstand each other or make mistakes, they often clarify, repeat, or rephrase. These moments provide examples of how real people correct and adjust communication, which is invaluable for learners who want to navigate real-life conversations confidently. Watching movies helps learners understand pacing in dialogue. The rhythm of speech changes depending on emotion, urgency, or context. Fast exchanges, long pauses, and overlapping dialogue all contribute to authentic conversation, and observing them trains learners to anticipate and respond naturally. Movies provide exposure to filler words and hesitations that occur in real speech. Words like well, you know, and like appear naturally in conversation. While often discouraged in textbooks, these fillers are essential for sounding fluent and natural in spoken English. Movies allow learners to understand humor that is context-dependent. Jokes, irony, and sarcasm often rely on cultural cues, tone, or timing. By watching comedy movies, learners experience how humor works in real English, learning to interpret subtleties that are difficult to teach otherwise. Watching movies enhances comprehension of figurative language. Metaphors, similes, and idioms are embedded in dialogue and context. Seeing visual reinforcement helps learners grasp meaning and remember expressions more effectively than isolated definitions. Movies show different social registers. Characters speak differently depending on context, audience, and relationship. Observing formal, casual, or playful speech equips learners to adjust their language appropriately in different situations. Repetition in movies reinforces learning naturally. Phrases, idioms, or key vocabulary often recur, allowing learners to absorb patterns without rote memorization. The repetition is contextual, making the language meaningful and easier to recall. Movies teach the rhythm of connected speech. Words often blend together, contractions appear, and certain sounds are dropped in casual conversation. Listening to actors naturally demonstrates these patterns, improving both listening comprehension and speaking fluency. Additionally, movies provide examples of persuasive language. Characters negotiate, convince, or explain arguments, showing practical ways English is used to influence or persuade others. Learners can mimic these strategies in their own conversations or presentations. Watching movies exposes learners to culturally specific references. References to holidays, historical events, or pop culture appear naturally in dialogue. Understanding these references enhances comprehension and connects learners to real-world contexts. Movies also teach timing and humor and emotional expression. Comedic pauses, dramatic silences, or urgent interruptions illustrate how timing changes meaning, a subtlety that textbooks rarely capture. Through movies, learners observe how people express disagreement or critique politely. Characters model ways to offer opinions, challenge ideas, or refuse requests without causing offense, which is essential for social communication. Movies provide examples of persuasive storytelling. Dialogue often includes narratives, anecdotes, or explanations to convince others. Listening to these structures helps learners understand how to organize speech effectively in persuasive contexts. Movies show negotiation and compromise in action. Characters work through conflicts, make requests, or adjust plans, providing examples of language used in collaboration, problem-solving, and decision-making. Watching different genres enhances adaptive listening. The dialogue in a thriller, drama, or romantic comedy varies in speed, emotion, and complexity. Exposure to diverse genres trains learners to understand multiple registers and styles of English. Movies illustrate how context shapes meaning. The same phrase can mean different things depending on tone, facial expression, or situation. Observing context-dependent meaning helps learners interpret subtle nuances in real conversations. Movies provide examples of question formation and follow-up. Characters ask clarifying questions, confirm understanding, and check assumptions. These models help learners practice natural questioning strategies in English. Movies teach informal expressions used in everyday life. Casual greetings, farewells, and small talk appear frequently, giving learners authentic language for social interactions outside formal settings. Movies provide learners with a way to hear how emotions shape language naturally. The same sentence can carry different meanings depending on tone, volume, or speed. By paying attention to these variations, learners can develop a more nuanced understanding of English and begin to express themselves more precisely in conversations. Watching characters interact in movies also highlights the importance of nonverbal communication. Facial expressions, gestures, and posture all add meaning to spoken words. Observing these cues alongside dialogue teaches learners how tone, body language, and word choice work together to convey meaning effectively. Movies allow learners to experience idiomatic expressions in context. Phrases like "spill the beans" or "under the weather" are often difficult to grasp through definitions alone. Seeing these phrases in action, supported by visuals and emotional context, helps learners understand their meaning and how to use them naturally. Movies offer examples of conversational resilience. Characters often navigate misunderstandings, unexpected events, or challenging social situations. Watching how they recover, clarify, and continue speaking provides learners with strategies to handle real-life communication challenges with confidence and grace. Subtext is another valuable lesson in movies. Much of what characters communicate is implied rather than stated outright. Observing how meaning is conveyed indirectly, through pauses, emphasis, or gestures, teaches learners to infer meaning and engage with English on a deeper, more intuitive level. Movies show how speech adapts to different settings and relationships. Formal meetings, casual chats, and intimate conversations all require different language choices. By observing these shifts, learners gain insight into register, politeness strategies, and appropriate expressions for various social contexts. Movies often highlight cultural references that are embedded in language. From holidays and historical events to pop culture and regional slang, movies teach learners not just words, but the context in which they are used. Understanding these references is essential for both comprehension and communication in real-world English. Finally, movies inspire continuous engagement with the language. They combine entertainment, learning, and cultural insight, making English practice enjoyable and sustainable. By immersing in dialogue, tone, emotion, and context, learners naturally build vocabulary, fluency, and confidence, turning the act of watching a film into an effective and immersive language lesson.
Your English is shining brighter by the minute. Hit that next video to keep leveling up your skills. Or dive into our other episodes for more secrets to talk like a pro. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share to join the Groovy English crew.